Hello everyone, welcome to this small session by Sunya IAS. Now you must be knowing that when it comes to modern Indian history, we are doing the terminology section, which is one of the part of the high yielding topics. Okay. Now in the terminologies also we have already done the nationalist struggle and those 4-5 important ideas. Then we went to the Mughal and Maratha side, and we in the first part of that we discussed in detail about some of the ideas, some of the terms which were very famous in the Mughal code and as per the Mughal rules and regulation in Mughal Padchahat. Now in the Maratha side we have to move and we have to look at the various ideas which or various terms which are used extensively in the Maratha code. Okay, so let's begin our today's lecture. Now before moving forward, let me tell you specifically that if you are preparing for your civil service examination and you are going to appear for your 2023 prelims examination, make sure to go and check out the Sunya IAS new prelims crash course, which is oriented directly towards your prelims examination. Okay, the link is in below this video, and the idea over here is that you can see that not only you will be provided with the small handbooks also, and no topics handbook is more than 100 pages, so it is actually readable even now when the prelims is coming close, and it will be really helpful for you. Okay, because it is oriented in such a manner that you can mark maximum number of questions through these crash course. Okay, so please go check out the details of the crash course and you can work out accordingly. Now let's move to the class. Now today we have to see the terminology number 3, Mughals and Maratha part 2, and over here we are going to focus on the Marathas. Okay, so first important keyword which might come, that is Hindu Padshahi. Okay, now this whole idea Hindu Padshahi is many a time is connected with Chhatrapati Shivaji. But one needs to understand that Chhatrapati Shivaji, when he established the Maratha Swaraj, okay, or the Maratha Empire first initially, he called it Maratha Swaraj in 1674. He never used this idea of Hindu Padshahi. Okay, the Hindu Padshahi is something a land which is owned and where the people are from the Hindu culture. Okay, faith-wise Hinduism was not a thing back then. Okay, so Hindu culture. And Hindu Padshahi was an idea which was extensively promoted and supported by Bajirao. Bajirao, who was the second important Peshwa, the son of Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath. Bajirao came to power in 1720 and ruled till 1740. For those who want to have a more perspective, it's the same Bajirao I'm talking about, whose role was there in your movie where Ranveer Singh played that role. Okay, the same Bajirao. Okay, he came up with this idea of Hindu Padshahi, and he explained to his Peshwa, who was Sahu at the time, Chhatrapati Sahu, that that it is possible to rule on the Indian subcontinent between the area of what he said Attock and Cuttack, and that is basically Attock is nothing but Attock, and Attock is in next to Abbottabad right now in Pakistan, and Cuttack we know very well is in Odisha. Fine. So that whole territory is something he declared that it should be made Hindu Padshahi. Okay, it's a territorial concept. Okay, so that is what it was, and that you should know. Now, were the Marathas ever able to do it or make it? Yes, for a small time period between 1758 and 1760, they were able to take over. Okay, after the demise of Bajirao in 1758 to 1760, for two and a half years, they got the hold on the fort of Attock. So this is true that they were able to establish the control between Attock and Cuttack. But it was gone very soon in 1761 when because of somehow this expansion only, Battle of Panipat was also fought, the third battle in 1761. Okay, chalo. Next idea, Maratha Swaraj. This is even a concept which came even before Hindu Padshahi. Maratha Swaraj is basically the territory directly under Shivaji. So you will see that Shivaji actually ruled between 1674 and 1680. Okay, he got himself coronated in 1674, and for six and a half years he ruled. And this period, the region which he ruled, basically if you'll see the map, you will find there's a small strip of land on over here is Surat, just immediately outside the border of Marathas, and then the small strip of land on Konkan, which was directly controlled by Shivaji, and that is where you call it Maratha Swaraj initially. Now obviously this notion stayed in norm, and even when the Marathas expanded, this notion kept in use. Okay, so in generic way Maratha Swaraj was there. For example, when Lakshmi Bai, the Rani of Jhansi, fought against the Britishers in revolt of 1857, she didn't fought in the name of bringing back the Mughal Empire. She fought in the name of bringing back the Maratha Swaraj. So that you should keep in mind. Fine. Now next one. Okay, so just like we saw the administrative hierarchy, territorial administrative hierarchy of the Mughals, and over there I have told you that Sultanate, Suba, Sarkar, Pargana and Mahal, those were the standard hierarchy of the country, province, commissionerate, district and village. Similarly, in the case of Maratha Empire, you will have Maratha Swaraj, which will be equivalent to a Sultanate or the country, and then you have the Prant, which is equivalent to the province or state. Taraf was equivalent to a subdivision, a commissionerate kind of a thing, and then below that directly come Mauz, which was village. So obviously Maratha Empire was smaller in size initially when the division was made in comparison to the Mughals, so they are one division lesser than the Mughals. Okay, so that is what it is: Maratha Swaraj, Prant, Taraf and Mauz. Saranjani, in many of the texts the name is not written as Saranjani. In many of the texts it is written as Saranjam. So both the words are used, Saranjan. Okay, you don't have to make notes with me right now. You have a PDF attached to this video down below, and the link of the PDF will have obviously a PDF which will contain all the material which we are discussing here. So you don't really have to make a note, you can just download it. So Saranjam, Saranjini or Saranjam system, what is it? So back in 1690 to 1700, the Chhatrapati of the Maratha Empire was Chhatrapati Rajaram. Chhatrapati Rajaram, the second son of Shivaji. Chhatrapati Rajaram. Now Rajaram evolved a system that is that whenever any military general of the Maratha Empire performed excellent on the battleground, they were usually given a territory in which they were made the leader, and their responsibility was to expand the empire, to collect the revenue. Okay, and obviously since they were kind of then went on to become the local Subedar and extended their own basically they were given autonomy and they expanded their own control in the region. Okay, but ultimately they were under the control of the Chhatrapati. So this concept was initially introduced by Chhatrapati Rajaram, but Rajaram never used it ever. Okay, he never really got the opportunity to use it. But when Balaji Vishwanath became the Peshwa between 1713 and 1720, he got an opportunity. So in this period only, the Marathas had a understanding reached out with the Mughal Wazir or Mughal Prime Ministers, or the important characters called as Sayyid brothers, in the reign of Farrukh Shiar. And this understanding was that the Marathas will support, okay, the office of Farrukh Shiar, the Badshahad of Mughals, and in return the Mughals will allow Marathas to collect revenue from 6 of the Mughal Deccan provinces. So Mughal Badshah had 6 provinces in the region of Deccan, and it was said that Marathas now can go and collect revenue from there if they support Farrukh Shiar's candidature as the Mughal Badshah. Good, this understanding was signed. Now, do you really think that if anyone tells Marathas, or Mughals tells the Marathas that go and collect the revenue from there, the people are going to pay the revenue to the Marathas if they know that they live in Mughal Empire? It's difficult for government of India to collect revenue from their own citizens. If suppose tomorrow government of India tells some other country that go and collect revenue from my people, are the people going to pay the revenue? No, it will be very difficult. So for the collection of revenue, you need to evolve a system, a proper system of revenue collection. Okay, you have to establish administration, because people, if they are going to pay the revenue, they are going to ask you to provide them certain form of jobs, or not job, but some things accordingly. A judicial system, a road network, a drainage system, or if not that, at least security. Fine. So Marathas had to do something, and that is where this Saranjani system or Saranjam system, which was there in Maratha legal books, was brought out by Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath and implemented. Because of this, those Maratha generals who have performed excellently in war efforts on battlefields, like the Sindhyas, like the Bhosles, like the Gaikwads, like the Holkars, like the Puas, they were given small territories, and they were given the responsibility that you go there, expand the Maratha presence, and increase the revenue collection. And that was done so. It was done so. So just keep this thing in mind. Fine. So that is what Saranjam system was. And this system only led to evolution of Maratha Swaraj into Maratha Confederation. Because you will see that post third battle of Panipat, post 1761, Marathas rose again within a decade time, and by 1771 they were able to recapture almost all the territories they have lost in battle of Panipat, in the third battle of Panipat. How? Because of this Saranjam system or Saranjani system only. Because now, since these Maratha generals, who are now called as Maratha Sardars, were expanding in an autonomous manner, so Maratha Empire expanded at a very huge pace. So you will see that the North India was mostly controlled by either the Holkars or the Sindhyas. Okay, the Bhosles expanded in Odisha and the nearby region. The Gaikwads were someone who were active in Gujarat, and that's how Marathas became so successful very soon. So Saranjani or Saranjanam system is very important for you. Next idea, Chauth and Sardeshmukhi. A lot of students always get confused. So basically, Chauth is fourth part. Chauth, chautha hissa, Chauth. Okay, and it was kind of a security money which was asked by the Marathas from the nearby territories. So all the territories around the Maratha Swaraj had to pay this money, which was equivalent to 1/4 of their overall revenue collection. Chauth was 1/4 of overall revenue collection. of the territories which are outside Maratha Swaraj, they have to pay to Marathas, making sure the Marathas will assure them security from others as well as from themselves. Okay, so that was the payment for that. Sardesh Mukhi, people get confused. No, you need to understand Sardesh Mukhi used to be 10% again, which was paid extra by this regions only, this territories only, for making sure that the cost of collection of revenue which the Marathas have to bear. Fine, this 1/4 they have to pay, but the collection has to be done by Marathas. So for that collection, they need more 10% because the process, the infrastructure which is needed for collection. So for that 10% on the top, and that's why it's called as Sar Deshmukh. Okay, so the Deshmukh, the office of the Deshmukh, okay, over and top of everything else has to be paid 10%. So that was 10% amount was Sar Deshmukhi. And these, one of the more major important reason during the third battle of Panipat, you will see that when Ahmad Shah Abdali entered the Indian subcontinent, he was immediately supported by Rohilla Afghans. Okay, but because he identified with ethnicity of the Rohillas, identified with the ethnicity of Ahmad Shah Abdali, and both of them were Afghans, so they came together. But Marathas never got support, neither from the Rajputs, not from the Sikh, who were also very close by, not from the Jats of Bharatpur. Why? While they were fighting in Panipat, the one who is coming from Kandahar and Kabul is getting support from someone who is sitting here in Rohilkhand. But who is coming from Pune is not getting support from someone in Bharatpur and Amritsar and Rajputana region. Why? Because the Marathas had already charged this Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi on Sikh, Jats and Rajputana region. So there was no sense of camaraderie between these local regional rulers and the Marathas. For these regional rulers, the Marathas and Afghans were treated on the same lines, that these are outsiders who will charge or will ask for money and threaten us with violent action. Okay, so initially the Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi have been useful because in 1674 it was Surat who paid initially, the traders of Surat actually paid initially Shivaji, and he used it to establish his empire in Raigad and accordingly expanded. But later on, this Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi only causes the main difficulty between the various Indian regional rulers. Okay, so that you have to keep in mind. Now there are a lot of topic written here. Peshwa, Sare-Naubat, Nyayadhish, Amatya, Vakya Navis, Samant Dabir, Sachiv, Pandit Rao and Hazar Majlis. Okay, Peshwa, Sare-Naubat. Okay, now how one can explain these things easily. So instead of going through this one by one, I'll explain that to you in an easily way. And this is a diagram which will be very helpful for you if you want to understand things. Now this is shown here, Maratha administration system under Shivaji. Now when Shivaji came to power, he was the Chhatrapati, he was a hereditary monarch. So you will see here it's written hereditary H. Now he appointed to support him for recommendatory body kind of a Ashtapradhan, which is the council of 8. And since it was an appointed body, A is written here. A. Now in this Ashtapradhan you will see it is a ministers with military commands, and there are also ministers with no military commands. Why? Because specifically the work you see here, there was a Vakya Navis, okay, Mantri or Vaknis. Vaknis is the word for Mantri, okay, king's personal advisor. Vakya Navis was actually the home minister. Vakya Navi's main work was not as the home minister was to collect the information as the internal minister, to collect the information from the whole of the state and give it to the Chhatrapati. Then there was a Sachiv or Surnis, that was the Ministry of Finance. Amatya was the Minister of Revenue. Peshwa was the Prime Minister. Now Peshwa later on became very powerful and kind of became the de facto ruler, but initially he was one of the Ashtapradhans. Then Senapati, Commander-in-Chief. Okay, the other name for Senapati is Sar-e-Naubat. Okay, Sar-e-Naubat is the other name of Senapati, which was taken usually in the Mughal court, but it actually because Mughals and Marathas were at the same time, so it got transferred there also. So many a time you will see that Sar-e-Naubat was a word used for Senapati also in the Maratha code. Sumant or Dabir was the foreign minister, and all of them used to maintain a military command also. Now there are two ministries who never controlled or mandated to have military command. Why? Because one was Pandit Rao, and Pandit Rao was basically the in charge of charities and all that, basically the main priest of the state, and the Nyayadhis, who was the chief justice in a way. He was also the minister of justice at the time, or he was also answerable to the Chhatrapati. Okay, so all these Ashtrapadhan were there. Fine. Now out of these Ashtrapadhan, you will see that three of them, the Vakya Navis, the Amatya and the Peshwa, used to have Sir Subedar under them who were appointed by them. These were the governors of the major divisions, and each Sir Subedar used to have a Diwan, a finance minister in a sense of their own, to regulate the local division. These are major divisions. Now beyond this, Peshwa also appointed Subhadars. These were 5 to 7 in territories of Mughal areas. This was the very place where the system of Saranjani initially evolved. Okay, Subhadars, who were given the Mughal areas to control initially. Then you will see that the other section, the provinces, that is the Prant or Suba, then the Taraf, that is the subdivision, and then finally at the lowermost strata was the Maus, that was the villages, and in each level there was the administration. For example, in the Prant there was a Mukhya Desh Adhikari, and he was also appointed office. Okay, then in Taraf the appointed official was called as the Havaldar. In the Maus, the appointed official or the hereditary officer was Patil, who used to keep the account, and he was also the revenue officer, police chief and judge also in many a time. And to support the Patil in performance of his duties, a new office was done, was called as Vatandar. Okay, he was the village official servant, and then came the common public to work. Okay, so that you have to keep in mind. So this is the whole listing, and if you get a basic knowledge of this, you will be able to get all these ideas easily. Okay, now similarly the same kind of thing also works on the other side, and that's here, the Maratha administrative system under the Peshwa. So initially between 1674 and 1713, Chhatrapati was de jure as well as de facto ruler. But after 1713, Chhatrapati's power reduced and he didn't remain that powerful. So you will see here that Chhatrapati was hereditary ruler, but he remained only the nominal king who sat in Satara. The actual office de facto ruler became the Peshwa, who himself became hereditary. Instead of appointed, he became hereditary by this time. You will see in the previous picture I show you, even the office of the Peshwa, which is here, okay, it was appointed. All of them are appointed. But here it is shown that Peshwa became hereditary. It was the Bhatt family from Pune. Okay, so he became the prime minister, actual head of the confederacy, and this time his Subedars became more and more powerful. Okay, these principal Sadar, the chiefs, league with the Peshwa. They became the Bhosles of Nagpur, Gaikwads of Gujarat or Baroda specifically, Holkars of Indore, and Sandhyas of Gwalior. Fine. Now there were few other Sardar also, like Puals and all. In total there were 12 Sardars almost, who were very powerful. Each of them has a Diwan. Prime Minister, as the Prime Minister, Peshwa also has his own PMO called as the Peshwa Daftar or Huzur Daftar. Fine. Now there was divisional governors also who were active in Sar Suba. Then there was a Suba, at the Suba level again Peshwa has a direct commandment. The Mamlatdar was active over there. The Darakhdar, who was a hereditary office, the public officer, or customarily including 8 special functions and 12 Karkoon, clerks per Suba. So here you also got the meaning of the word Karkoon. Karkoon is a very generic word now. It comes from Persian origin. Carcoon in present 21st century time, if you will see, obviously in India no one says carcoon, but it's a Persian word which is extensively used even now in Pakistan and all places. Okay, carcoon is a general word for worker, but back in the day it was a word used for clerk. In 21st century, carcoon is a word for worker. Any worker, any laborer, okay, all these kind of things, they are called as carcoon. 21st century. But in the 17th and the 18th century, they were the clerks. Okay, so keep that thing in mind. Then Pargana, again Pargana, there was Deshmukhs who were hereditary office, revenue record keepers and intermediary for a cluster of village, and finally at Maus you will see that same system which was there at the time of Shivaji was prevalent even at this time. So you have to keep this thing in mind. Now let's move forward. So these are all the things which we have just discussed, and this is also in the listing. So you have got the handouts, okay, that PDFs which are in the link below this video, so you can go and check it out. That's there. Okay, now Bargis and Silhedar. Now this is very important. Who are Bargis and who are Silhedars? So basically, the right now India has two type of armed force. We have a standing military, okay, like the Indian Army, Indian Navy, and Indian Air Force. Okay, we are not even talking about policing department and all that. And there is CAPF, Central Armed Police Force. They are answerable to the central government directly, and the first one also. Okay, now we know it very well that the facilities which Government of India provides to Army, Air Force and Navy are far more, or the individuals employees of the Army, Air Force and Navy are far more than the officials of CAPF. That's a reality. Why Government of India does so? Why there is no equality? There is no equality because it's costly. It's really costly to maintain equality, and therefore there are gradation in the armed forces also. Fine. So that is a very simple definition. There is the issue of money. That's as simple as that. The same issue was there with the Bargis and the Silhedar also. So you will see here, yeah, Bargis were the standing army of the Maratha Empire. Standing army of the Maratha Empire. Fine. And Silhedar were actually kind of a mercenary. They were mercenaries, and these as a mercenary, the Silhedar used to go around and work for the Marathas. They were on the command of the Maratha Peshwa, but they were not directly paid by the Peshwa or the Maratha Empire. So how they were paid? Understand this thing. The Silhedar, as it says, Shilas, so they used to work for money. And this money is not paid by the Peshwa. For Bargis, everything, their weaponry, their salary, their everything was kept by Maratha Empire. They were the official armed force of Marathas. Bargis were allowed to loot the region which they have attacked. Okay. Marathas, whenever they have to start fighting at some place, some region, they used to send the Bargis first. Bargis will go there, they will already create a chaos, they will already kill half of the army of the other side, and then the real Maratha army will come in. That is how it was done. The Bargis were not paid directly by the Marathas. The understanding was this, that the Bargis will attack any region which Marathas want them to attack. Bargis will be allowed to loot the area, the villages, and fulfill their requirement. This was a payment thing. Now, what Marathas were doing for them? In case if any other regional power would try to attack the Bargis, then the Maratha official army, the Silhedar, not the Bargis, the Silhedar, if the any other army or the Siledar will be allowed to go and attack the region, loot the region according to the mandate by the Marathas. Marathas wanted some area from maybe Ali Wadi Khan of Bengal. They will first send the Burgese over there. Okay, no, but before the Burgese, the Siledar over there. So Siledar will go attack the region, will take over the area, or will start militancy in the region, will loot the villages on the border of Bengal. But if Ali Wadi Khan would have attacked, then official army, the Burgese, will be sent. So that's the understanding. Now, Siledar will get the protection of the Maratha Empire from the back. Now, who were the Siledars in generic? You might have heard about the Pindaris. So Pindaris used to act or used to work for the Marathas as the Siledar. The Pindaris were the people who were living in and around the area of Narmada river. Obviously these areas were not that fertile on the up in the Chambal region also, and you will see that they went on, their main occupation was actually working as a mercenary, and they looted the nearby region. You will see finally the third Anglo-Maratha war happened because of this. It is called as the Pindari War. So the Peshwa actually signed the subsidiary alliance with the Britishers in 1802 itself, and subsequently by 1805, by the end of Second Anglo-Maratha War, almost all the Maratha Sardars, all of them who were part of Saranjani and the Confederacy, they also signed the agreements, the subsidiary alliance with the Britishers. But then in 1813, you will see that Pindaris went on to attack the regions of Mirzapur, the region of Cuttack, and these were the regions in the control of the Britishers at that time. Okay, when Pindaris attacked these areas, since the Pindaris were the Siledars, the Britishers retaliated, and since the Pindaris as the Siledars have this understanding with the Maratha Peshwa, even though Marathas were a subsidiary alliance from 1805 onwards, still the Peshwa declared war on Britishers, and that war happened and ended the whole of Maratha Empire in 1818. So the final nail in coffin of Maratha Empire came because of the Siledars only. So Burgese and the Siledars you need to know well enough. Karkhani and Chitnis. Chitnis are local revenue official. And Karkhani is basically a word, any worker who is working in on a industry, worker in industry. In Mughal and Maratha times, Karkhanis were one who were actively employed in weaponry making. Okay, so these were the people. So these details are there in your handouts. So that will be actually all for this lecture. Okay, and I hope some of the important keywords about Maratha Empire you must have understood in this lecture. Let's catch up in the next lecture and will move forward. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.